All right, so from the title of this video, you're either really happy or really sad, or maybe you just don't care. But the S2000, this is the exit interview for it. And by exit interview, I mean it's leaving here on Tuesday. It's going on a truck and it's going halfway across the country. So what I'm going to do today in this video is I'm going to wash it, do my normal exit interview thing where I tell you why and how and the whole story of what's going on. I'm going to approach this a little differently than what I normally have talked about with my S2000. In general, if you get it, like if you're an obsessed garage type person and you get the way that I speak, then you understand that I don't approach things from a negative angle, but I sound negative. I understand that. I get that people think that about me. So this isn't a negative thing. This is a life learning experience. I really enjoyed the process, and so for those of you who don't understand my style or my brand, if you will, of how I speak, then I'm gonna do my best to make this feel more like a gracious thing rather than woe is me, I hate this car. That's not the case. This was a project. I chased it, I pursued it. This was my car. This was my car when I was 20 years old or 19 years old that I wanted. And I got it years ago, and I got it again now years later and built it exactly the way I want it. And it's just, I'd been there, did that, and now I'm moving on. So anyway, let's work on the wheels. And I gotta get a new, I'm working on new spray bottles again, so I'm back on that project. But let's get moving on getting this thing cleaned. So I'm gonna do a whole podcast on the buying and selling process. This is the first time I've ever sold a car this expensive, this specific before. Every other high-end car that I sold, my M3, my previous GT3, my Carrera S, was always traded in. And logically, a lot of people's comments are always, well, why the heck would you do that? Why would you trade in your immaculate car? You're not going to get as much money for it. And the reason behind that is because of the pain you have to go through and the risk that there is to sell at private party. Now, I'm not buying another car. So let me first preface the video by saying that I don't have another car that I'm intending to buy. So no, an E92 isn't in the cards at the moment, or really anytime soon. So I'm not intending to go buy something else right away, or anytime soon. But the process of selling a car. Sorry, I can't get behind the rotor there. The process of selling a car private party, there's risk to both sides. Who gives up the title first? Who wires the money first? Do I send them the title? Does he send me the money? Do we try to time it? Do we hire an escrow agent? When do I give them the car? And so I'm going to do a whole podcast episode on the process of that and my experience with doing that. I've done it a few times with cars. Again, never a car this expensive, this rare. I've never sold private party. So I'll cue you in on the experience. The car's leaving on Tuesday. Today's Saturday, so we'll have the process, the transaction done here shortly by the time I release, or by the time I make that podcast episode. But anyway, if you haven't seen the video, I made a video talking about my I was thinking about selling the car, right? That I was second guessing whether this it's the car that I wanted, that I want to have this many cars in my life. I've just been second guessing that for quite some time now. And again, I got lots of comments about people saying they're so negative, blah, blah, blah. Again, it's not a negative thing. It's just a realist thing, right? I bought the car, I built the car, I have the car, and it's great. But I mean, maybe I'm too soft, or I've grown out of it, or it really doesn't matter. It's just, it's a car that when you have a GT3 RS, it jades you a bit. right? And so, I made a video saying, look, I'm $70-something thousand into this thing. Of course, then lots of people are like, oh, there's no way you spent that much money. And I said, look, I'm just telling you, I don't make stuff up. I'm telling you what I spent on it. 40,000 bucks on the car, and then I've got 35 grand worth of parts on the thing, and countless hours of labor into it to build it. So then, of course, the next comments come as well, why didn't you build it yourself? You suck, all that stuff. I said, well, I didn't want to. I wanted to go have the best build this car, so it would be the best and not my own hack job version of it, right? And so I went and spent the time, spent the money of one, shooting video while we built it, but getting the car there and back has been a huge process. So countless hours invested in getting the car built, which is fun. It's fun for any of us car guys. So, as I was saying, I chose to have the best build this car, and so we built it, and it was done. And there's still some tweaks. I'm sure the next guy that gets it will tweak some things on his own. I mean, the hard top is a little squeaky, and there's just some things that you're always on, especially on a car that's 10, 11 years old, even though it only has 14,000 miles on it. It's going to need some tweaks forever. And so, we built the car. I bought all the JDM parts. It's a gosh darn UPS JDM dream. I'm sitting here at my house, and all this stuff just kept showing up. It's incredible. It's awesome. Having the Toyota exhaust come direct from Japan. I learned lots of lessons. Actually, I'm using DHL to ship internationally with my company now because of how great the experience was receiving a DHL shipment of the Toyota exhaust from Japan. Now, later we learned that I ordered the Japanese version of the exhaust, which doesn't fit the AP2 tunnel here in the US. But anyway, that's all part of the learning curve, part of the process of building a car. And since these are all bolt-on, I know some of you guys are losing your mind here. I mean, it's not like we're pulling the engine and rebuilding the thing, so I get that. But anyway, bolting the stuff on that I wanted to do. So went through that whole process, got the thing all set up, because I knew for certain I didn't want a stock S2000. These things are pretty gutless, so forgive me. I've owned two, a naturally aspirated S2000, an AP1 in 02 and an AP2 in 2007, with just some exhaust and intake, and it was great at the time. But now, having owned 500 horsepower cars, it just doesn't hold up for me as much as it would or did in the past, right? So I knew right off the bat that I wanted to supercharge this thing, that I didn't want the car unless I was going to be highly modified. Try to make it modern, make it at least hold up in comparison to the modern sports cars that I've become accustomed to. And so we chased that project, and I think accomplished it. Did a great job. With the guys at LHT, my buddy Bill at Dynasty. We went through a arduous process of figuring things out and getting the thing done. But with any car, I just got back this weekend, and this is what solidifies it for me. It's a lot of work, man. I just, for whatever reason, maybe I didn't break the clutch in properly. We had a bad part in the clutch. I just took it back down to LHT because I knew I was selling it. I wanted it to be perfect. The clutch pedal was kind of hung up a little. It was clicking a little bit. And occasionally, it only happened twice, where I'd be on it hard, and then third gear would lock me out. You guys saw that in the very beginning. It happened once in the video, and then the pedal locked me out. So I took it down to John this past week, which you saw the last video on the channel here, where I talked about the day in the life of a car guy having to drive 5 hours to go get your car where you need to get to in order to get fixed. Well, I had to do that same thing again on just the other day, on Friday, yesterday. And that's part of the process. And so that solidified me saying, look, I just can't, this isn't you, me. Where I'm at in life, I just can't, I just don't want to do it. It's not that I can't, I don't want to. I don't want to do it with five cars or 4 cars I just don't want to do it. So anyway, I made the video several months ago talking about how I was thinking about selling the S2000. Of course, everybody scoffed at the idea. It was, oh my gosh, $70,000. No one's going to pay you that. Aftermarket parts aren't going to, no one's going to give you that. Out of respect for the guy that bought the car, I'm not going to tell you what he paid for it, but let's just say it's a lot. And it's pretty close to what I built it for, right? And so I put it out there. I never even put it for sale. I just said, hey, look, if somebody wants to buy this car, if somebody wants this set up the way it's set up, I think someone would probably buy it. And I decided to keep it, right? So let me preface that before you get bent out of shape here and say I lied to you. I decided to keep it. And I just the other day I was sitting in my wash bay here, and I got a text from one of my buddies, actually my buddy who owns Dundon Motorsports, and he said, look, they got somebody looking for a unique car. He wants an S2000. He's been looking for a CR. I'd like to get him in touch with you. Would you still sell it? I said, absolutely. By the way, this is like 5 days ago. I said, absolutely. If someone wanted to pay for it and wanted the car, I'd sell it, And so then, one thing led to another, and we agreed on a price, and so now the car is getting shipped all the way across the country. So, the deal is done, and the car is now leaving. I feel good about it, especially, I drove up from Tampa yesterday, sat in the car for 2 hours, brand new clutch, car is dialed in. Again, you still it's still an S2000. You still have the hard top makes noise. The car is small, it's tight. It's everything that you want it to be, very raw. The naturally aspirated feel you get from the supercharger. The whine of the supercharger is super cool. So all that neatness of it is great. I'm just soft. It's just. It's time. It's time for me to. I'm so glad I did it. This reminds me very much of my motorcycle experience. I bought in 2007, late 2006. So when I was 26 years old, 25 years old, I bought a YZF R6 Yamaha. I bought it, put a Yoshimura full titanium exhaust, got it all set up. Scared to death to even ride the stupid thing. Putted around town with it. Got pulled over for doing 87 and a 35, my maiden voyage of going out in the thing and actually taking it to red line, and it got it out of my system. So this has happened several times in my life, but I thought my entire existence, my new pursuit was, I'm going to go back and get all the cars that got away, right? So this was one of them. All the cars that I sold, not because I wanted to get rid of them, but because I needed to in order to get the next car. So that's been the plan. So I wanted to get a Carrera S, manual 7-speed Carrera S. I wanted to get an S2000. I wanted to get an E92 M3. Shoot, I even wanted to go back and find a 99 Civic or a 2000 Civic Si. And I was going to just get all these old cars that I had back because they were great once, get them all back and just collect them. But this was the first one, and now I know that's not something I want to do. I did the same thing with the track. I didn't go to the track for years and years and years because I was scared, and I told myself, when I get 2 cars, then I'll go. Right? I'll have one car for the track and one for regular. And so when I got my E92 M3, I had my EP2 S2000. There was no excuse anymore. I went, and I hated it. Right? So I just think that I'm one of the few, at least on YouTube or online, that's willing to admit when I'm wrong, And it's not even wrong, it's just, I'm just chasing, just trying things out, testing it out. So I got this car. This is the greatest example of an S2000, and I don't want to say it's not good enough, because it certainly is good enough. It's just not what I want. And I didn't know until I did it. So a lot of you are sitting there thinking, well, why would you go through this whole process? I didn't know. I didn't know until I tried. And now I tried, and now I know it's not something I want. So now I got it out of my system. So that whole dream of going back and getting all the old cars is not part of the plan. Although I find myself really wanting an E92 M3, and now that I have a pile of cash from this sucker, I kind of want to go get one, but I'm not going to. So So don't get your hopes up. I'm going to spend all that money on List-A-Cab. So again, I'm not complaining here. This has been fantastic. It's been everything I wanted it to be from a process perspective of building the car, and going through the process of fixing things and having to refix and readjust things. Like with the clutch, getting a new clutch, and just again chasing the process, doing the stereo in the car, doing all the little parts and pieces. The stereo, and I'm going to tell the guy who bought it, he needs to go get it tuned. I'm not an expert tuner. I basically did the auto thing, where you do the auto tune. I just did some basic adjustments of the crossovers in order to get it set up, and then dialed back a little the harshness to my ear, and that's about all I did. So he'll probably want to go get the stereo tuned. He's actually going to be taking the car to. I suggested he take it to Metropolitan Detail. And get, I think he's going to do the whole thing in S-Tech, which is what my next step is going to be, to go do S-Tech clear film. So he's going to go see John Clevin and the guys at Metropolitan Detail and get the car completely dialed. It's pretty dialed, but the clear film has to come off the front. It needs to be redone, and so he's gonna go have that done, and then the car will be able to wash it with normal care rather than having to do this crazy process that we're going through here today to maintain it. So it'll be much easier for him to maintain rather than what I have to do to keep it clean. All right, so I'm going to finish the last wheel, and then we'll come back and wash the rest, and I'll tell you the rest of the story. All right, so I'm going to do the normal process on this. If you haven't watched me, I've done this a dozen times now, showing you, or I guess at least a couple of times, showing you how I do the black car washing process on this soft Japanese paint. But the real advantage of what he's going to do, at least I hope he's going to do, is remove the coating, correct it out again at Metropolitan Detail, do S-Tech on the whole thing, and then he won't have to do all this, right? So I'm sure he's going to watch this video, so he won't have to go through this process that I have to go through of barely touching the paint to keep it from scratching. And even then, there's always, there's a couple of little water spots and things that, Todd Cooperrider talks about this all the time. It's like, would you rather have a few crunchies on the paint or a bunch of scratches? And so you'd be better off not dealing with some things, like if you have a little piece of contamination or something on it, better off leaving it than getting too aggressive at removing things. And then when you do a maintenance correction, then you'll remove that stuff. And so the beauty of, if he does a self-healing S-Tech on this very soft black paint, he's going to lose a little clarity, but he's going to pick up the ability to not have to obsess over it so much. If he's lucky, he's not as insane as I am. That'll help him a lot. But having this black car has been a good experience for me. And I know you're seeing this on video, saying this is clean while you're even washing, and I'm telling you, the thing's a freaking mess. As dirty as can be. I drove in the rain to take it down to LHT. But again, I'm using deionized water right now on this black car, and because I'm going to try to touch it less, I'm always wanting to have the least chance possible of water spots. But man, just like any black car, you get this thing clean, it's awesome. At least it's awesome for a couple hours until it gets all dusty. And then because it's black, I can't touch it, so it's not like I can just go wipe it off. Telling you guys, if you haven't used or experienced this Mosmatic gun, it's so much better. Hate the sales pitch you on this, but man, it's so good, so awesome. Save yourself the pain of trying to piece it together yourself. Save yourself $12. I've got it all worked out so that you don't have to think about it. Let's foam it. Get a little sidetrack there. So I'm going to use my normal, just Adams car shampoo, just foam the car and wash it. PF22 MTM foam cannon, all stainless connections. I always run it wide open. Does your foam look like that at home? So, procedure on this black car is to touch it as gently as possible. Kamikaze super soft sponge. A couple of swipes. Again, I've gotten a little less conservative with the sponge as time has gone on, where before I was doing one swipe and I want to see if that scratched it, and then I would do 2 swipes and that didn't scratch it, and so I've been able to kind of just do a panel at a time like I normally would, but just use this really soft sponge. The love bugs off. And of course, as always, work our way down from top to bottom. So anyway, this car is great. The next guy that gets it is getting it, I think, greater than it was before. One thing, I thought this car was supercharged. What I didn't know, and I don't want to blow up the spot of the guy that I bought this from, but the guy I bought it from has a couple of these. I think he has a bunch of them, of S2000 CRs. And so the one that everybody thought this car was, it's not. This is a different car. So this was not supercharged before. It had wheels and brakes. Of course, when I got it, it was stock. But it wasn't supercharged. John and I talked about that because I just thought John didn't know. So John said, no, you don't understand. The guy has a couple of these things. In fact, he has more than, we don't even know how many he has. And so, I don't even remember what the guy's name was, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, this car was not supercharged until I put the supercharger on it. So it's now has 14,200 and change miles on it. We put the supercharger on at almost 12,000 miles. So this car is freaking awesome, So I'm psyched for the guy that's getting it. I think he's gonna love it. He's gonna take it to the track, so maybe he should make a YouTube channel. It'd be a lot better than my channel because he's gonna do stuff with it that it's meant to do. So that's the real positive thing, is that the car is gonna get taken and used the way it's meant to be. I was gonna just drive it around town, but I'm not ashamed to say it, and that's what I like doing. You do what you want to do, I'll do what I want to do. We can meet in the middle. But my next step was to get this hideous clear bra off the front of the thing. Gosh, I hate that. Seeing that line across the middle. Clear film is older tech. It's probably older, Gen 1 or 2 XPEL. No good. No good at all. So again, I don't think I'm gonna be, but you guys know me, I move fast, right? Things happen fast. So, but I don't have any intention of buying another car. I've toyed with the idea of getting the new M5, but now it's a fart machine, just like the F80 is. So that's out for me. I'd only want to buy the M5 if it was perfection. It's just not for me, having to deal with the overrun issue that BMW is so fond of. So I'm going to roll the RS and just do more with the more RS content, drive the RS more. And I'm going to be doing lots of detailing stuff too, and lots of garage focused content. So again, with the clear bra, I don't need to be as worried about the sponge. I think I'll probably still do an E92 again. I'm trying to get the new RS, so that would be a big change. Although the RS would probably look pretty much the same as the RS I have now, other than the Weissach package. but I would like to get the new one. But OGHQ is going to take a lot of my time building that. I think I'm going to share lots of cool stuff with you guys as I just got some Haltech really neat automatic tire inflation devices. I'll be playing with those. Like I said, I'm going to become the #1 Lista dealer in the world. I've decided. So there'll be lots of Lista content, which are amazing cabinets. And then I'm really going to chase doing lots of wash and drive stuff. So that means I'm going to have to do other people's cars, since you'll get bored with the 3 that I have. But the Raptor's going to be complete here soon. I'm going to try to get down there next week to do the install of the bumper, the suspension. And all you guys that were yelling at me about hub-centric rings, you're probably right. The things wobble crazy. So I don't know if it's just a bad balance or what it is, but we're gonna have to figure that out because it's driving me nuts. So those of you right now are yelling at the screen can cheer and give a couple of fist bumps that you were right, that I probably need some hub rings on the methods. But I mean, there are thousands of people that have methods and no one makes rings, so I think it might just be a balance issue. But man, wouldn't it be nice to be able to wash this like normal instead of having to deal with this super soft method. All right, so we still got our DI water here. Now I'm gonna rinse it and dry it. I don't think I'm gonna need to touch it. So I don't think I need to come back and use a drying aid. But man, I'm telling you, having a clean black car is awesome. But my obsessed life is gonna be a little less anxious now that I won't have a black car again. So all this beading and all this, protection we have on the paint, I've been getting lots of questions lately about, you see, they've been spending. It must be some sort of venture capital that's come into Hydrosilex or something like that. But it's in every darn Instagram. Time I'm on Instagram, I see a video for no longer need to touch the paint, just spray it on. Well, that crap generally doesn't work well in my experience. Even the stuff like Hydro 2, and I've actually given all that stuff away. It's just it doesn't do nearly as well. I find that it doesn't offer as much protection. It offers lots of beading, but then they tend to build up over time. And so I would highly recommend you just stick with the basics here. You either go the full extent and coat your car, or wax it. There's no secret way around. All right, so I'm gonna get the leaf blower out and dry this sucker. I have fully transitioned to the using the electric leaf blower. I actually took the gas one over to the garage, over to OGHQ, because I haven't been using it at all. So I bought one of the big batteries, one of the big 56 volt versions. I guess they're all 56 volt, whatever the larger, I think 4.5, what is it, 4.5 amp? I forget what measure it goes by, but I bought the largest battery for the Ego blower. Hyde's rust serum, Hyde's rust stopper serum, or whatever the heck it's called. So one last thing, this is my little secret weapon. You do the process of spraying the hides on, dry it with the leaf blower. I'm gonna pull back and forth a couple of times to keep them from rusting over and combating or ruining all that work I just did. That's the extent of that. So I am gonna do a drying aid and just wipe it the rest of the way down, just to make sure everything, all the little bugs and things. I do notice on the clear film, I'm gonna grab some Spotless and do a quick little Spotless wipe down here. There's a few water spots. That's the disadvantage of, you know, having black car with any kind of coating on it, because coatings generally have, you know, spot issues with potential spots. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but I've never actually seen it do this, where we have quite a few spots on there. Let me see if this takes it off. It's not. I normally wouldn't use this much of this stuff, but let me just wipe it across here. This is usually spray on the surface. Yeah, and it'll probably just have to sit out in the sun a little bit. He's going to be pulling this clear film off anyway. There aren't any spots on the paint, just on the clear film here. I got most of it. But that's part of the deal with a black car. Water spots are part of the game on coatings and black. That stuff normally leaves it kind of streaky, so I'm going to spray it a little bit more than I normally would of the Eco 2. Again, I'm touching the paint more than I normally would, because this is the clear film. Shoot. So don't use that towel. Yeah, the darn spot removers don't work for jack. You never do. I don't like using that stuff because then it makes a mess. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't want people to have this unrealistic expectation of, you know, on camera, this thing looks like there's not a flaw to be found, you know. I was really looking forward to pulling off this clear film. Boy, does that look good when you wipe it down. All right, I'm going to finish drying it off, and I'll come back and wrap it up for you. So with glass, there's no secret formula here. To me, I just want some variant of alcohol in distilled water, which is what Griot's basically is. And you get such a great result with a waffle weave drying towel, which I have, of course, in my store. Another sales pitch for you. There's no reason to do both interior and exterior, other than, you know, you're coating the exterior, so the glass is coated. I think this has Forte flyby on it. Whatever's on it, it's been on it for a long time. I haven't changed it. So I finished doing, you know, drying the car. I'm going to pull it in the bubble. All right, windows are done. I think the interior is pretty clean. I'm just going to use my window towel, which is a little damp. So a quick little wipe down. I had just vacuumed and just cleaned it last time I washed it. So it's good to go. Guess it's a little different because it's me, but I would, even if I had bought it and someone washed it and got it red, I'd still wash it and clean it anyway. So I wouldn't trust the person to clean it the way I wanted it clean. But I guess this is Obsessed Garage, right? I'm gonna put a little bit of dressing on the tires. And actually, let me show you that. I'll show you that here. So I've changed my procedure a bit here in that I'm now doing 1-to-1. So 1-to-1 dilution brush. I'm going to lather it or slap it on there like so. So I've been doing straight up forever, but this way I find, I don't know, it seems to tend to last a little longer. I started doing this on the truck tires because it's easier to do on the you know, all the cracks and stuff, because the sponge would get destroyed. And so I started doing it on the cars just to kind of see how it goes. But I'll leave that on there just the time that it takes me to get around to the next. I'll come back here and I'll show you. I'll wipe it off and then it'll be good to go. So, you know, I just put that on the tire and I come back and just wipe off the excess, making it so that it's not shiny, just make it look nice and satin. You're going to basically jack up the towel that you use to do this, so I'd suggest you use something that you don't really care much about. These are some of these are 15-year-old Griot's towels, but that's my new 1-to-1 procedure. Man, does it look nice. So that's the tires. All right, I'm going to wipe the rest of the tires off and I'm going to come back and really wrap the video up for you. And wrapping this up here, I'm going to take the plate off, which I guess is symbolic of this coming to fruition. I really enjoyed the process of building this car. I do enjoy the car. I think it's a great car. I think the guy that's buying it is getting a great representation of it. I do feel a bit justified in that, you know, I know what this car's worth. I know what it costs. I know what it takes to put this together. Again, out of respect to the guy, I'm not going to talk about numbers, but it's a number a lot bigger than what you're thinking. And so I'll leave a little mystery to it. I know I generally give you guys the number. It has nothing to do with me. I'd tell you in a second. But he didn't ask me to not say it, but I'm just not gonna. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to talk numbers here, but. You know, this experience of buying the car, you know, what was the car at one point in my life, the idea of buying it and keeping it forever is more, for me, is more of an idea than it was when it became reality. The reality is very different than what my perceived or what my perception was going to be of the experience of owning it. I mean, one thing that really put it over the top, I decided to keep it. I took it over to HQ. I'd washed it. I put it in there. I'd actually covered it, and then I came back. I had to move it. I planned on driving it like a week later, and the week turned into 6 or 5.5 weeks, and I went to start it up because I wanted to drive it, and then it wouldn't start. So I didn't put it on the trickle charger because, again, I intended to drive it a week later, and it turned into 6 weeks, almost 6 weeks later. Yeah, that was what really solidified it for me. Again, I've been wishy-washy back and forth. Should I sell it? Should I not? And then that happened. And then literally a day later is when I got a call that said, hey, I'm going to buy your car. You know, would you sell it? And my answer was yes. So anyway, the experience of owning it and buying it and having it, I know some of you S2K guys are disappointed because you wanted to see more of the car. But I've got to do what's right for my psyche. You know, I'm the guy that even if it's a t-shirt that I like, but I don't fit in it anymore, you have a tendency to like keep the t-shirt. Well, I've always been one to just remove it, get rid of it, and I'll get a new one someday instead of just sitting on all this stuff, right? And so I'm much more of a minimalist in that I'm not very good at collecting things. I don't like to just sit on objects and hold on to them forever. So this was this car is sacrificial based on my tendency to not keep things, right, and not collect things. I do like complete sets, but I only like the set if I'm going to keep it for a long time. So anyway, I appreciate you guys following along in this process. I'm sure I'm going to make some more mistakes along the way and buy some other stupid stuff, and then come back and make an exit interview video on other cars and other objects. And I'm not afraid to do that. I know I'm going to get lots of backlash in this video of whether you think I'm complaining or not gracious or what have you, but that's par for the course. That's part of this process of sharing stuff and sharing it in my style, and not leaving anything out. But anyway, this car is going to a new home. I'm sure the guy's going to love it. I'll be sad when he sells it for 125 grand in 6 years. But anyway, thanks for being a part of the journey. This car is, I didn't buy this car. Obsessed Garage did. So by proxy, you guys that support me and buy stuff from me and then watch the videos is what paid for this car. So I'm super appreciative of that. I'm glad that I got to own it. But it's time to move on to the next thing. I don't know what that's going to be. Maybe it'll be an E92. Maybe it'll be a new 991.2 GT3 RS. It's not going to be a GT2. I can tell you that. So if you're young and you don't know math yet, selling a car that this price, I have what, 75,000 bucks into, selling another car, a Raptor or something for 50 grand doesn't equal 330. So that's not happening. Plus, I don't really want a GT2. I prefer naturally aspirated. The GT3 RS is my car. That's the car that I want. That's the car that I'm going to keep unless I'm fortunate enough to get the new iteration of it. So anyway, car's off to the next home. Maybe you'll see it if you're in the Pacific Northwest. That's where it's headed. So maybe you'll see it up there at Cars and Coffee or at some track event. Hopefully some track event. Hopefully it gets used as intended. I'm just not the right guy for that. So anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more crazy. Hopefully it'll be a new car soon. Thanks for watching. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.